one since then. And if that booming melody sounds a little familiar, well, there's a good reason. It was famously adapted for the UEFA Champions League anthem, which is just an amazing link between a 300-year-old royal tradition and modern-day soccer fans.
You can't talk about the coronation without talking about its deep religious meaning. But that brings up a really huge question, one that completely reshaped English history. Why is the British monarch the head of the church and not the Pope?
And the answer to that comes down to one of history's most famous, or infamous, kings, Henry VIII. He's the one who introduced the oath of supremacy. This was a revolutionary move that forced all officials to recognize him, not the Pope, as the head of the church. This totally changed the game for the relationship between the crown and religion, and that change is still a central part of the ceremony today.
This move toward a unique English identity wasn't just about religion either. It was also about language. For centuries, the royal court spoke French and Latin, but then along came Henry IV, who was the first monarch to actually conduct royal business in English. A few decades later, Edward IV took it a step further and held the first-ever coronation conducted entirely in English. It was a clear signal that the crown was becoming a truly English institution.
Of course, a ceremony that's been around this long isn't just about dusty old rules. It's also about the fascinating personalities who shaped it. So let's take a look at some of the monarchs who broke the mold, set some wild records, and left their own unique stamp on the coronation. Talk about a royal budget. King George IV, who was famous for his love of all things extravagant, threw the most expensive coronation in history. If it happened today, it would have cost a jaw-dropping £21 million. He absolutely spared no expense. And right after him, you get his successor, William IV, who was the complete and total opposite. He hated ceremonies and pretty much had to be begged to even have a coronation at all. He spent so little on it that people mockingly called it the penny coronation. Get this, instead of a huge banquet, the guests were just served turtle soup. The coronation has also been a stage for some really groundbreaking firsts that changed the monarchy forever. You have Mary I, who defied centuries of tradition to become the first ever queen regnant. That means a queen ruling in her own right, not just as a king's wife. Then Edward VI's coronation kicked off Protestant rule. Later, James I united the crowns of England and Scotland. And way back during Henry VII's reign, a royal trumpeter named John Blank became the first black person we know of to attend a coronation. It's a small but really significant detail in this long, long story.
Taking on the crown is a massive job at any age, but some of these monarchs were just children. Henry VI was only 8 years old when he was crowned. Edward VI and Richard II weren't much older. I mean, can you imagine being a kid, surrounded by all that ceremony, with the weight of an entire kingdom suddenly on your shoulders?
All right, so we've seen how the ceremony itself changed over time. But how did it go from being this super exclusive event for nobles to a global spectacle watched by millions? Well, the answer, in one word, is technology.
Every new invention brought the public a little bit closer to the crown. It all started with photography for Queen Victoria, which gave people their first real look at their monarch. Then came the automobile, with Edward VII arriving in style. George V's coronation was captured on color film, which really brought the whole thing to life. Then, the radio broadcast of George VI's ceremony reached a global audience for the first time. But really, it was the television broadcast of Queen Elizabeth II's coronation that was the game-changer, completing the journey from a private rite to a truly public spectacle.
So, we've gone all the way from William the Conqueror in a brand new abbey to King Charles III in the age of the internet. After 1,000 years of constant change, what is the legacy of this incredible ceremony today? When you step back and look at the big picture, the transformations are just remarkable. We're talking about a ceremony that's gone from armor to robes, from a private party for nobles to a global broadcast. It's evolved from a male-only rite to one that includes queens, from loyalty to the Pope to the monarch being head of the church, and from a French-speaking court to a truly English institution. What all this proves is that the coronation isn't some dusty, unchanging ritual. No, it's a living tradition that is constantly adapted to reflect the nation itself. And that really brings us to our final question. In our modern world with social media and instant information everywhere, what's the point of a ceremony that's rooted in 1,000 years of history? It's a big question about tradition, about symbolism, and about the role of a monarchy in the 21st century. So what do you think?